So imagine you're dragging yourself up this freezing, wind-whipped Himalayan mountain trail.
Well, sounds brutal.
Yeah, your lungs are just burning from the altitude, your fingers are completely numb, and then a local monk comes up and warmly offers you a steaming cup of tea.
Which sounds like heaven at that point.
Right. So you take a desperate, grateful sip, only to discover your mouth is suddenly coated in these pungent, floating globules of salted, clarified yak butter.
Yeah, a massive shock to the system for anyone who's just expecting a standard, comforting cup of Earl Grey. I mean, it requires a completely different palate entirely.
Totally. Well, welcome everybody. Today's episode is going to be a special one as we explore the best tea leaves to take home, and we introduce you to the Tea Connoisseur of Kathmandu.
Yes, and we are basing our entire conversation today on the incredibly detailed David Weiss article.
And you know, what makes this particular look at tea so compelling is the author himself, because David is famously, unapologetically, a coffee person.
Which is so funny. But having a coffee loyalist as our guide is actually the perfect lens for this topic. You have this guy who has traveled extensively tasting tea all over the world.
Right.
I mean, he has literally walked through the sprawling industrial tea plantations of India. He spent time examining the humid rolling hills of the tea estates in Malaysia.
Yeah, he's put in the miles.
He really has.
Yeah.
Yet, after all that global exposure, he never really understood the worldwide hype around tea. It simply never clicked for him. That is, until he arrived in Nepal.
Right, and it's interesting because while India usually gets all the international headlines for its famous Darjeeling tea, right next door to that region is Ilam. And Ilam is Nepal's premier tea-growing region, producing an incredible variety of leaves. But, you know, we are going much deeper than just the geography today.
Absolutely.
Whether you are a tourist looking to bring something genuinely special back home from Nepal, or you are currently living in Nepal and brewing your own cups at home every morning, this audio guide is built specifically for you.
We really want to break down the chemistry of those high-end reserves, like the silver and golden tips, the daily local blends, and exactly what artificial traps you need to avoid out there.
Yeah, and we'll introduce you to the specific shopkeeper in Kathmandu who will basically change the way you see tea forever.
Definitely. But to really appreciate the gravity of Nepalese tea, we kind of have to look at why those previous global tea experiences failed to win the author over, you know?
Right, his background baggage with tea.
Exactly. His journey is essentially a global trial of unmet expectations. Like in China, he thoroughly enjoyed the aesthetic of the traditional little shops.
Oh, the vibe is great.
The vibe is amazing, but he found the actual flavor profiles to be highly watered down and weak.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then looking at places like Iran and Turkey, tea is served with this incredible elaborate pomp and circumstance. You know, you have beautiful curved glasses and intricate serving trays.
Very photogenic.
Highly photogenic, but it was purely ceremonial for him. The visual spectacle just far outweighed the actual extraction in the cup.
And then when he gets to India, he expects this grand tea awakening, right? But what he finds is Indian hot chai.
Right.
Which, don't get me wrong, is undeniably delicious. But as the David Weiss article points out, it tastes absolutely nothing like actual tea.
No, not at all.
It has this like milky malted chocolate vibe to it. The heavy sweet spices in the boiled milk just completely mask the delicate tannins of the actual tea leaf itself.
It's more of a dessert beverage at that point.
Yeah.
And then come his initial experiences in Nepal and Tibet, which were arguably the most difficult.
The yak butter tea.
Yes, the infamous yak butter tea we mentioned earlier. It's a staple beloved by Buddhist monks in the region. And biologically speaking, it makes perfect sense for them, you know.
Because of the calories.
Exactly. At extreme altitude, your body desperately needs dense caloric energy and fat just to stay warm and function. Clarified yak butter provides exactly that.
But for a casual tourist.
Yeah, as a casual beverage for a tourist, the intense caloric density and that physical sensation of butter fat just floating on the surface of the hot water, it triggered a near-gag reflex for him.
I can only imagine.
And even later, when he traveled to the Cameron Highlands of Malaysia and drank exceptionally fresh tea, it still just left him feeling totally uninspired.
You know, it's a classic case of what we could call Nescafe syndrome.
Oh, I like that. What do you mean?
Well, think about it. If someone's entire concept of coffee is just those generic instant granules dissolving in lukewarm water, they are going to assume all coffee is just brown caffeinated water.
Right, right.
They won't get it. Similarly, if your entire concept of tea is a generic, dusty, soggy little bag that has been sitting in a corporate pantry for 2 years, you aren't going to understand the global obsession.
No, of course not.
Walking into a real, authentic tea environment after a lifetime of soggy bags requires a total paradigm shift, like walking into a Michelin star restaurant when you've only ever eaten fast food.
That is a perfect analogy. And that brings us to the turning point in Kathmandu. He meets this man named Jagannath Nepal, who is the owner of Himalayan Garden Tea.
Okay.
And Jagannath does something absolutely brilliant here. He doesn't force a cup of hot tea into a stubborn coffee drinker's hands. He bypasses the taste buds entirely.
Oh, smart. Avoid the biases.
Exactly. Bypasses all of the author's preconceived biases. He simply brings out two different types of raw tea golden tips in Ilam tea and invites him to just smell the different aromas.
It's a total masterstroke because by removing the pressure of tasting, he opens up a completely different sensory pathway.
Yes.
The olfactory system can pick up on all those complex volatile oils and floral notes without triggering the bitter receptors on the tongue that usually turn coffee drinkers away from tea in the first place.
Right, because coffee drinkers are so hyper-aware of bitterness.
Exactly. So leaning over those dried leaves, the author finally gets it. And that olfactory awakening leads us straight to the most popular tea Jagannath showed him, which is Ilam.
Yes, Ilam. Ilam is the absolute backbone of the Nepalese tea industry. I mean, if you ask locals in Nepal what tea is the best, they will proudly point to Ilam.
It's a huge point of pride.
A massive source of national pride. It's their most common mid-price tea, generally ranging from 1,500 to 2,500 rupees per kilo.
Okay, so very accessible.
Very. And it originates from seeds that were first planted in the eastern regions of Nepal way back in 1863.
Okay, wait, I have a question about that. Looking at the geography described in the David Weiss article, Ilam shares the exact same Himalayan foothills, the exact same climate, the mountain mist, and the high-altitude acidic soil as the famous Darjeeling region in India.
Right, they are practically neighbors.
So, if Ilam shares the same geography as the famous Darjeeling region in India, why does India get all the hype while Ilam remains a hidden gem?
Yeah.
The borders on a map are arbitrary to a tea plant, right?
They absolutely are. It really comes down to colonial history and industrial logistics.
Okay, how so?
Well, India's tea industry was heavily industrialized, capitalized, and exported globally by the British Empire. That firmly embedded the word Darjeeling into global trade routes and consumer consciousness.
Ah, marketing and empire.
Exactly. Nepal, however, was historically far more isolated and was never colonized. Its tea industry developed locally and independently. However, worldwide tea connoisseurs actually consider Ilam to be vastly superior to Darjeeling.
Wait, superior?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, connoisseurs prefer it.
That comes down to the way it's processed, right? Because the David Weiss article details a few distinct variations available within Ilam tea, specifically contrasting CTC with orthodox methods.
Exactly. The processing dictates everything about the final cup.
No.
So CTC stands for crush, tear, and curl.
Sounds aggressive.
It is. It's a highly mechanized process that literally macerates the leaf, rupturing the plant's cell walls immediately.
Oh.
Yeah, and this exposes all the internal enzymes to oxygen at once, resulting in rapid, aggressive oxidation. Mechanically, this yields a very strong, dark, astringent brew that extracts quickly.
Which is perfect for cutting through milk and sugar, I assume.
Exactly. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have the prime, first flush orthodox versions.
And orthodox means it's handled delicately, right?
Right. The leaves are traditionally gently rolled rather than shredded. That rolling simply bruises the leaf, leaving the cell walls mostly intact.
Okay, so it's a slower process.
Much slower. It allows for a very slow, nuanced oxidation process that preserves all those delicate essential oils and volatile flavor compounds.
So that careful orthodox processing gives Ilam an aroma, clarity, and complex taste profile that connoisseurs argue Darjeeling often lacks, basically due to mass production demands.
You hit the nail on the head.
But, you know, even with all that rich history, our coffee-loving author was still searching for something that would fundamentally convert him. A Ilam smelled great, but it wasn't the holy grail.
Not quite.
So seeing this, Jagannath reaches into his reserves and pulls out the luxury tier, which are the silver and golden tips.
Let's examine the silver tips first. It's commonly known as white tea. When Jagannath opens an old tin box, the author is just stunned to see the leaves literally look silver.
Like actual metal.
Yeah, it has the sheen to it. This is one of the purest, least processed types of tea available anywhere on Earth. It is made exclusively from the tender, very first spring buds, which are covered in these fine, silvery hairs.
Oh, interesting.
And they are only lightly dried, not oxidized at all. Because it skips the heavy processing, it remains very low in caffeine, but exceptionally high in antioxidants.
And the taste profile is fascinating, too. It's described as slightly bitter, but incredibly light and fresh. And then Jagannath demonstrates how a second wash-like, steeping those exact same leaves a second time, actually shifts the flavor profile, making it far more pungent.
Yeah, the second wash wakes it up even more.
But the most incredible detail from the David Weiss article is the physical sensation. Drinking silver tips literally leaves a buzzing or tingling sensation in the mouth.
It's a highly unique physiological reaction.
I mean, it sounds exactly like eating mild Pop Rocks or experiencing that numbing tingle from Sichuan peppercorns. Like, it's not just a flavor, you are experiencing a tactile sensation on your tongue.
Yes, and that tingling comes from the specific chemical makeup of those young buds. Because they are the very first growth, they contain highly concentrated levels of specific polyphenols, catechins, and complex alkaloids.
Okay, chemistry time.
A little bit, yeah. When those compounds hit your palate, they actually stimulate the trigeminal nerve.
Wait, what nerve is that?
It's the same nerve network responsible for registering spice or minty cooling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Russians and Eastern Europeans absolutely prize this tea specifically for that unique, stimulating mouthfeel.
Yet, despite that incredible sensory trick, silver tips was still just a curiosity for the author. The tea that finally broke through his coffee loyalty and completely won him over was the golden tips.
The Holy Grail.
Specifically, the first flush golden tips. And we really need to break down the actual biology of what first flush means, because it explains why this tea is so revered.
The mechanism behind a first flush tea is brilliant. So, all winter long, the tea bush just sits dormant. It isn't growing new leaves, but its root system is acting like a giant battery.
Storing energy.
Exactly. It's quietly drawing up nutrients, nitrogen, amino acids, and complex sugars from the soil. When spring finally breaks, the plant rapidly pushes all of that stored, concentrated energy right into the very first tiny buds that sprout at the top of the bush.
And those top tips are the golden tips.
You got it.
Furthermore, this specific Orthodox tea is grown at an extreme altitude, like over 3,000 meters up in the mountains of eastern Nepal.
Which is incredibly high.
Right, and at 3,000 meters, the air is thin, oxygen is lower, and the temperatures are colder. This forces the plant to grow much slower, which condenses those stored flavors even further into the leaf.
It's basically a flavor pressure cooker.
Exactly. And the resulting taste is described as extremely delicate, incredibly refreshing, and so light it practically dances on the palate.
It is a double prime tea. I mean, you combine the altitude stress, the slow orthodox processing, and the concentrated nutrients of the very first spring pick, and you get a true luxury product.
Which means it's not cheap.
Naturally, the price tag reflects that rarity. First Flush Golden Tips is the most expensive tea you can buy in Nepal, running upwards of 12,000 rupees per kilo.
Wow, which is a massive leap from the 1,500 rupees for standard Ilam.
It's a huge jump.
But, you know, I love the juxtaposition of how the author actually drinks this 12,000 rupee luxury leaf. Jagannath is accustomed to drinking it near boiling hot, appreciating the delicate steam. The author, however, prefers it mildly warm, or even cold brewed and stored in a plastic bottle while he's out trekking the Himalayan trails.
A plastic bottle.
Yes. He takes the finest, most delicate tea in the country and utilizes it like a sports drink on a hike, much to Jagannath's absolute amusement.
That is hilarious. But it proves that once you secure a truly exceptional ingredient, the pretentious rules fall away. If cold brewing it in a plastic bottle brings out the refreshing notes and keeps you energized on a trek, then that's the correct way to drink it.
Totally. But practically speaking, buying 12,000 rupee tea isn't sustainable if you're just looking for your Tuesday morning caffeine fix. Not everyone wants a delicate golden tip for their daily routine.
No, most people want something robust.
Right. And Jagannath's shop offers options for every single palate, which brings us to what the locals are actually drinking, the blended varieties, and the spiced teas.
The masala tea is a perfect starting point here. Anyone familiar with Indian hot chai might assume they know what masala tea is, but the Nepalese variation operates on a completely different flavor spectrum.
Oh, how so?
Well, the David Weiss article notes that Nepalese masala uses incredibly pungent aromatic spices to create a deep, savory depth. It sharply contrasts with the heavily sweetened Indian versions.
Okay, so it's more savory than sweet. And the chemistry of the preparation is completely different too. Because in India, the milk is usually boiled directly with the tea and spices, creating a thick, integrated emulsion.
Right.
But in the Nepalese method, cold milk is often added to the hot spiced brew afterward. Shocking the hot water with cold milk alters how the milk fats bind with the tannins, changing the texture and the way those savory spices hit the tongue.
It's such a specific technique. It creates a rich profile that literally drives Chinese and Indian tourists to travel to Nepal specifically to stock up on it.
That's amazing.
You also have standard milk tea, which remains a massive favorite among Japanese and Romanian tourists, as well as the local Nepalese population.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there is green tea, which the author openly admits he still doesn't quite grasp. It is packed with healing antioxidants, but he notes it is strictly for existing green tea lovers.
Okay, so it's an acquired taste. Now, with all of these authentic, incredible local options, I have to ask, are there any teas tourists should actively avoid, like tourist traps?
Oh, absolutely. David put a massive red flag in the article regarding fruit-flavored teas. He explicitly warns tourists to actively avoid anything marketed as lemon, orange, banana, or jasmine flavor in Nepal.
Banana tea. That sounds suspicious anyway.
Right, and looking at the mechanics of the local tea industry, it makes total sense why you'd avoid it. This is Jagannath's golden rule passed directly to the author. When you buy a banana or jasmine tea in these tourist markets, you are not getting high-quality Nepalese tea carefully blended with real dried fruits or botanical flowers.
What are you getting then?
Low-grade tea that is sprayed with cheap, artificial flavorings imported from China.
Oh, yuck. The chemistry of that is awful for the palate. Those synthetic chemical ester sprays clash violently with the natural tannins of the tea leaf.
It's a mess.
Yeah, instead of the volatile oils marrying together like they do in a natural botanical blend, the artificial spray just coats your mouth in a cloying synthetic residue. Jagannath advises that if you want real, authentic jasmine tea, you go to China or Japan. Do not buy artificially sprayed banana tea in the Himalayas.
It is invaluable insider knowledge. Knowing to seek out the savory masala or the complex Ilam, and knowing to step entirely away from the artificial fruit sprays ensure you leave with a genuine product.
Exactly. Which means you just need to know exactly where to go. As we mentioned earlier, the place you are looking for is called Himalayan Garden Tea.
Yes.
It's located just down from Tamil Chowk, specifically sitting opposite the Sandwich Point on Tamil Marg. And Jagannath Nepal isn't just a shopkeeper ringing up transactions, he's a master blender.
The routine described in the David Weiss article is fascinating. Every single morning, long before the shop opens, Jagannath is at his house personally choosing and blending the teas that will be sold that day.
It sounds less like retail and more like a master perfumer layering base, heart, and top notes. Or, an audio engineer perfectly mixing tracks to ensure the final product is flawlessly balanced.
Exactly. He treats his inventory with immense respect, hand-curating the Darjeeling, the green tea, and the silver tips daily.
And because of that meticulous morning routine, there are specific logistics you have to follow if you want to visit. Do not show up too early.
Don't do it.
If you arrive at 9 in the morning, the shop will likely be closed, or he won't be there because he is still at home actively blending. The optimal window to visit Himalayan Garden Tea is strictly between 11:30 in the morning and 8 o'clock at night.
Good tip. And the presentation when you arrive is stunning. You aren't just limited to basic plastic bags either. You can choose to have your tea packed in ornate wooden boxes that are so beautifully crafted they double as gifts or jewelry boxes long after the tea is gone.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, he offers traditional tea chests, or if you just want to secure a massive supply of high-quality daily tea for your flight home, you can buy airtight kilos to lock in that freshness.
It's a completely tailored experience, and I have a brilliant insider tip for you all listening, a literal secret password.
Oh, tell.
If you walk into Himalayan Garden Tea and you mention David Wei's name to Jagannath, he will give you a completely free taste test of your choice of tea.
Really? Any tea?
Yep. You can literally point to the high-end luxury jars, the silver or golden tips, and try it for yourself.
That is incredible. It is a wonderful testament to the genuine friendship built over countless cups between a remarkably patient tea master and a stubbornly loyal coffee drinker.
It really is. As we wrap up, we highly encourage you to visit David Wei's The Longest Way Home Nepal travel website. Since David is fundamentally a coffee guy, The website also features a fantastic list of the best coffee shops in Nepal.
Which is great to have.
Definitely.
Yes, and it is absolutely crucial to note that David's guidebooks are widely recognized as the most updated guidebooks in the world today. If you are planning a trip or just want a deeper understanding of the region, you need to check out his Trekking in Nepal guidebook, his paperback Nepal, the Essential Travel Guide, and his Nepal Guidebook Digital Edition, which you can download immediately.
All the links to those specific resources are right there in the show notes. Please do like and subscribe. It really helps us keep bringing you these hidden gems.
Absolutely. And as we step back from the bustling streets of Tamil and the quiet, mist-covered altitudes of the Ilam region, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
Consider the sheer improbability of this entire story. It took traveling thousands upon thousands of miles, crossing continents, navigating past watered-down cups and yak butter to step into a tiny aromatic shop in Kathmandu. All for a stubbornly loyal coffee drinker to finally understand the profound ancient alchemy of a simple tea leaf.
It's quite a journey.
It makes you wonder, what other daily routines, what other flavors, cultures, or experiences have you completely dismissed in your own life, simply because you haven't met your own Jagannath yet?